Welcome to Canucks After Dark. Here are your hosts, Parker Hallowell and Clay Emo.
Good evening, Vancouver, and happy Valentine's Day, coming to you here on Monday, February 14th, Valentine's Day for the next 2 hours. As always, joined by my co-host, Canuck Clay. How are you doing today, Clay?
I am great, Parker. I had a good, subtle, quiet Valentine's Day celebration. My wife, Gail, as you know, still recovering from surgery. So our son, Sean, cooked us a really nice meal, brought his girlfriend, Fernando, over, and, of course, Jacob and Kayla. So the six of us with a nice steak, prawns, and sushi dinner tonight.
That is lovely.
Yeah,
that
it was
is
good.
Classier than what I did.
What did you do, my friend?
We got a nice early dinner because I had a hockey game. So we went to Spaghetti Factory. Got some good Spaghetti Factory. It's so good. It's so good. Some good pasta. So
yeah.
we're feeling good. I am ready to go to bed. But we will be with you for the next hour, as we are every single Monday for the last almost year at this point, 10 months into Canucks After Dark. We have got a pretty good show tonight, I think, personally. We've got 3 games to review. We'll go over those pretty quickly. We got some other news going on. Some stuff happened last week. Like Cammi Granato. Tyler Toffoli got traded today, which might have some impacts on maybe some JT Miller value. There's a couple of games coming up this week that we can preview, and some other wrinkles and stuff for us to touch on, including next week's episode, which is a bit of a twist. Not really. It'll be 15 minutes late. But Clay, where do you want to get started on this lovely Monday night?
Oh, there's so much to talk about, but I had one quick question because I want to know, do you usually eat carbs before one of your hockey games, or was it only because you were at Spaghetti Factory?
It was just because of that. Normally I try to eat light.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Don't want to be full out there.
We'll start wherever you want to start. Do you want to start on the ice, i.e. the 3 games, or off the ice with Cammi Granato? I'll leave it.
Let's start off the ice. Let's run through these because I think a couple of these are going to be pretty quick because they were so long ago. Tuesday. This is a game that I bought your tickets for because you mentioned last week on one of your streams you were selling tickets. I'm like, yeah, I'll go. So I went to that game. Canucks won that one 5-1. A bit of an offensive explosion. A game that was fairly even, but the Coyotes just Vamelka did not have a good game there. 9,000 strong in attendance. A good little brawl in the stands next to me. It was a great time.
Oh gosh, I hope it wasn't my buddies. That was the one where the Canucks had a slow start, but Demko was really good in the first period, correct?
Yeah, well, Demko's good in every game. It seems to be. He was good. Canucks sort of hung in there for a while and not too much happened, and then they came out hot in the second period, I believe, and just sort of started piling on some goals, which was great. And they pulled this one out. It wasn't not a super interesting game. You know, Canucks just sort of piled 5 goals in. Vamelka, like I said, didn't have a great night. Arizona doesn't have a great team defensively. Arizona averaging like almost 4 goals a game against this year. I think they're like 3.7, which is so high because the average team's like 2.8 or something like that. So a really rough team defensively. They can't get anything going for them. They're going to play in front of 4,000 people next year. It's just a disaster.
I do remember the 2 storylines coming out of that game, Parker, where the guys that are supposed to score scored. Pedersen, Miller, Besser, Horvat, and Garland. And I do remember OEL piling up 3 assists. Granted, one of them was the easiest one ever. He just stood behind the net and let JT Miller take it, but it was still nice.
Hey, it counts. It counts.
Yeah.
Those are the ones in beer league where the guy goes and does it, and you make sure you skate straight to the ref. And he said, "Hey, I gave it to him. You put that assist down. I'm tracking those." And that's how you try to get the points lead on your team. Is you always just go to the ref and say, "Hey, I got an assist on that," and that's the key.
Did you talk about that on your stream that night? Because I remember I heard a stream where you were talking about beer league and telling the.
I might have. Okay. I might have. I run out of stories sometimes.
We should give a shout out to Justin, who gave a $5 donation nice and early. The game Parker thought was a Clayspiracy because Hughes didn't play. Explain, Parker.
Yeah, Clayspiracy, honestly, excellent word from Justin. So it comes out literally morning of the game that Quinn Hughes isn't going to play because he tested positive. Maybe it was the day before. That he was stuck in the States basically with a positive test result and he couldn't play that game. And so I tweeted out, wow, looks like Clay had some inside info We know he's close with some people. He's talked to Rick Dollywall in the past. He might have a little bit of the scoop there, and saw Quinn Hughes wasn't going to make it. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to make a quick buck off of my co-host here," which is I still believe happened. But I got lucky. Canucks still went out and won that game. It was Arizona, which does help. So I wasn't too upset.
And I would never do that to my podcasting partner. Of course, I look out for you. Never scam you. Never scam.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. So that game was pretty straightforward. We go on to the next game, which we're going to touch on quickly. Yaroslav Halak plays terribly. Allows 5 goals quickly. I think it was 3 goals in 33 seconds or 31 seconds.
How is that even possible, man?
It's impressive. It is impressive. And then 2 more near the end of the first period. He gets the hook. Ekman Larson scores, and somehow the Canucks made this one kind of interesting because the Canucks scored 2 goals in a minute and a half, sort of halfway through the second period, like 14 minutes in, with a Pettersson goal and a Shen goal, and made it 5-3. Everyone's like, wait, are they gonna do this? Like, are they gonna come back in this game where they allowed 5 straight, or they were down basically 4-0, or 5-0, I guess, and they're just gonna march back and win this game? Didn't happen, unfortunately. A couple of iffy penalty calls, maybe that kind of ruined some momentum, but at least it was kind of entertaining.
Yeah, this one, Parker, actually, as with the Arizona one, I was watching from the hostel with Gil, and this one we had a friend, and it was kind of good actually, because not Gil was distracted, but Gil was talking to our friend Jen, and I was watching the game, and they just saw me continually bang my head against whatever was near me. That was rough. And whether or not you say that those goals were Halak's fault, you still got to find a way to make a save, even if it's bouncing off your own guy's skate or coming off of this player or this way. It's just not good. You can't be down 5-0 in the first period. You just can't let that happen. Yes.
Yeah. Again, you can look at all those goals in a vacuum and say, well, the goalie's not going to save that every time. And that's fair. Problem is, like you said, you got to make a save. You can't have 5 goals on 12 shots. This game had a bit of a wrinkle to it because it's a game that we thought was a $1.25 million game for Yaroslav Halak, and we were incorrect. Drance was incorrect, but that happens. He was told, and he was shown contract details that said, hey, Halak, it's 10 appearances. It's actually 10 starts. So we'll talk about that maybe a bit more later.
Okay.
There's honestly nothing else I want to talk about in this hockey game.
That's fine. Let's go to Lucas's comment, and then we'll figure out. We're not used to getting donations, so we're so appreciative of your donations. Maybe going forward after this, we'll kind of stop halfway, and then we'll do the donations all at one time. But I want to acknowledge, thank you, Lucas. Thoughts of Arizona, and because I didn't want to break the thought, but we should answer this quickly in honor of Lucas. Thanks to thoughts of Arizona moving to ASU. Chatted with Eddie Lack, and he said it might be a good move since the fans are closer out there in Tempe. So 5,000 fans, Parker. What do you think?
It doesn't matter if you're closer, in my opinion, because if you're closer, you can be in the heart of Phoenix, Arizona. You can be in the heart of Quebec City. And if you have 5,000 people in stands, it's still 5,000 people, right?
Yeah.
Are they going to be selling those tickets for $200 a pop because there's only 5,000 seats? I highly doubt it. I think they're probably going to be, they're probably going to be $30, and there's probably going to be a few that are $10 with a free beer or something right at game time, like Florida used to do. I think they're going to have some fun student nights. I bet it'll be an awesome atmosphere. It'll probably be very fun. It's just so Bush League
it's a bad look.
A 5,000 seat stadium in the NHL. It hurts every team, right? It hurts the salary cap. It hurts. There's revenue sharing in the NHL. It hurts literally every other owner. I'm amazed that it even went through. But that's my take.
You know what's funny? Our channels, they're good. They're fair size, but they're not massive. You put together our 2 subscriber bases, and we have double together what 5,000 is.
Yeah.
like we have more. If we invited all of our subscribers, I know there's some mutual ones, we would be able to sell out the arena. That doesn't sound right.
No, that shouldn't be possible. Yeah, no, it is crazy. Let's move to the Saturday game. Hockey Night in Canada, 4 p.m. start. Perfect for Maple Leafs fans. And Thatcher Demko is the story of this one, and that's kind of it. 53 shots from the Toronto Maple Leafs, 19 high danger chances to the Canucks 5. And Thatcher Demko makes 51 saves. The obvious first star, literally carried the team on his back. And the Canucks pull this one out 3-2.
Thank goodness we had the fast start to this game, Parker. It was wonderful scoring a minute in and then 6 minutes in, and then basically hoping that Demko did his thing. I was at the game, as you know. Matthews and Marner in person, man, they are so good. They are so good. Just how quick they are. Their hands, Matthews' hands are, we know that his hands are filthy, but that goal he scored, which was really nice. And he just looked dangerous every single time he touched the puck. Did you catch the post game? Sheldon Matthews was very complimentary to Demko. Sheldon Keefe was a little bit salty after the game. Did you hear what he said?
I didn't know, but I would.
So Matthews said, that's a great goaltender, and we got to make it harder on him. Blah blah blah. Sheldon Keefe says that's a team that relies on world-class goaltending to win, anyways. But da 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 da. Which is
he's not wrong. Yeah. I mean, what's Thatcher Demko's save percentage since Boudreau took over? It's in the 940s, right?
Unreal.
Like that is the reason the Canucks are winning games. And that's fine. You're allowed to have a good goalie. It hides a lot of flaws. This is a game that could have been 7-2, and it wouldn't have been that surprising. I mean, look, Toronto's one of the best offensive teams in the NHL. When you have guys like Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, Marner, that's so much firepower. It's absurd. And it felt inevitable that Toronto was going to come back and win that game. But Thatcher Demko was just perfect.
Yeah, and like I said, spoiled, blessed, whatever word you want to use. I was at the game, first time seeing the Leafs in person. I want to know, Parker, I know you're watching. How loud was it on TV, i.e. Leafs fans on TV?
I was fine. It wasn't too crazy.
Okay.
I mean, Sportsnet's had some weird mixing audio issues this year, but it was fine. They stood out a little bit, but I think the Canucks fans sort of drowned them out. There was the Oregon and then the Leafs suck definitely was the loudest thing that came through. So that was nice at the very least. And I mean, for 9,000 people, it sounded fine.
Yeah, I actually think it was more than 9,000. I don't know what it looked like. I'll be the first to say lower bowl usually looks more full, and then upper bowl there's a lot of empty patches. But I tell you, man, that had to be 70 or 75%. It looked. I'm not getting anyone in trouble. It just looked like a lot of people. There are fewer patches and empty seats. That's what I'll say for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it was fun, and we won.
Yep. Good W. And again, we can talk about how, Thatcher Demko won the game, but hey, 2 points is 2 points. And if we're going to rely on Thatcher Demko for a bit on nights where the offense gets outplayed fully, sometimes those are going to happen. Teams get goalied all the time. The Canucks have been goalied a few times this season. I think back to that road trip in Florida and Tampa where they just couldn't beat Bobrovsky, even though they were the better team against Florida. And they were the worst team tonight. The goalie bailed them out. You'll take those. And it is nice to see the Maple Leafs lose. The Canucks are 14-2 at home against the Maple Leafs in their last 16 games against them, which it's just nice, especially because all of those games have been at like 4 p.m. So we get to wrap up early, and then things are pretty good.
What do you think of that top line of Miller, Besser, Horvat? I
liked it. I mean, they got the only. I mean, the power play was the second goal, but they get the first goal. I loved Besser's goal using his head literally to make that play happen. Yeah. I'm kind of liking this sort of Pettersson, Podkolzin, and Höglander kind of look that they seem to like. They really clicked, especially in that Arizona game. That line really showed some problems, and even in the Islanders game where the Canucks got dominated, I think they looked pretty good. So I'm fine with stacking two lines. And then having guys like, because I mean, if you stack two lines, you still have guys like Mott, Pearson, and whoever you want to put there on the third line, which I think is totally okay.
Yep, I agree. And then I think we both did pretty well in predictions. I know I wasn't right on. Maybe you were, because I said 2-0-1. The Canucks went 2-1-0. Is that what you said, or did you say 3-0? I can't remember.
I would assume I said 2-1, losing to Toronto. I might have said 2-0-1, something like that. But I don't think I would have predicted them beating Toronto.
Yeah. Okay. So
which I think is still the right prediction based on how that game went.
Yes. So a decent week for the Canucks. They were 2-1. They got their 6-7 points percentage, exactly what they need to do, but still tough sledding with 33 games to go.
Yep. They didn't make their lives any easier. They just didn't make it any more difficult. They're still like the same. They're still at the 8% odds or whatever they were at when they started. Unless there was other games tonight that had impacts on that. I don't have that in front of me. I actually do have it in front of me. Seattle lost. That doesn't matter. The Jets lost and Edmonton won against San Jose. Well, that was an in-division game. It was regulation. That's the plus.
Good. Good.
I think that probably does hurt the Canucks. I think San Jose's, the Canucks, like San Jose needs to get basically 7th for the Canucks to make the playoffs. But I mean, hey, the Canucks are 7 points back right now, which isn't really close. But it is not the most unreasonable thing in the world.
Right. And then, yeah, it just gives you, it's so nice beating a top 5 team like the Leafs. It's not going to happen every time. And obviously, as we've talked about for the last 5 minutes, Demko had a large part of it, but and an entertaining game nonetheless, especially coming off a bit of not a stinker, but a disappointing result against the Islanders for sure.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And after that game, we got a new little fun tradition starting on the team, and that is the championship belt. Coming from Bruce Boudreau, who goes to our friend John Pond. And I like that he had to preface it right off the bat when he introduced it. I saw the clip. He's like, it's not going to Demko because it should have, right? But he said he's giving it sort of the warrior of the game, and Yoel Lammikko ends up getting the game winner in the second period there, the game-winning goal, and he gets the belt.
He does. And so I don't know how much we're going to see this on social media. Maybe we will, because it's only when the Canucks win. Otherwise, John Pond's going to have it in his stall for the next couple of weeks. But yes, I don't expect to see a lot of Thatcher Demko, JT Miller, Elias Pettersson holding the belt. It's going to be the John Ponds and the Luke Shens of the world. I think that we're going to see holding this belt quite a bit. I think
it would have been way too easy. Like, because imagine you give it to Demko, right? And then Demko comes out on Thursday night and like shuts out the Sharks. What does he do? Does he say, because it's that guy's job to give it away, to say, guys, it was me. Look, we won this game 2-0.
Yeah.
I faced 40 shots again, boys. I mean, come on, I'm keeping this.
Coach, give me the carrying case. I'm just going to keep it in my locker.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just put it in a little trophy case. It's staying here. Because I genuinely think you could just give it to Demko every game almost. At this point.
Now, Parker, I think you're more mature than I am, so I think I know the answer. But do you watch wrestling?
I do not.
Okay, so I do. I think you know. But you don't have to watch wrestling to appreciate just how goofy, but how kind of cool it is. Like the WWE actually sends out replica belts to championship teams. So this one, Bruce had to buy himself, but he put the Canucks logo on it. And anything, more importantly, anything that builds camaraderie among the team, whether it's a hat or a stick or a funny jacket or an artifact. I think it's kind of cool. Just something different.
It really boosts morale, especially I like the idea of the player who won it last time has to give it. I mean, it's a tradition the Rangers have had for a long time, right? They had the hat, like the Broadway hat or whatever it was. And that's been their thing. And I think it helps build that camaraderie, right? Someone goes out and puts up 12 hits like Luke Shen does in a game. And after that game, you get the win, you're excited, and then you give that belt out, and it's an extra sort of like, hoorah moment in the dressing room, which I think it really helps bring people together. And I like things like that. I've had it on, like minor hockey teams where that was a thing, and I would try to gun for it, right? I'd be like, I want to win this game. So I'd go and I'd play harder. And if it helps just that little bit of motivation, I mean, it can't go wrong.
Yes. Did you win it a lot, by the way?
A decent amount.
Well, that's good. That's nice. Yeah, the only belt I'm wearing is the one around my waist. Okay, that was too easy, but yes, that's good. That's good. I hope to see more social media because it means the Canucks are winning. It means they're having fun. It means they're sharing it amongst teammates. But maybe it's because you and I we gave them the nickname, and maybe we should come up with another nickname for another player because I love your caption. John Pond wins the belt. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Hopefully we see more of it because that means the team's winning.
Exactly.
I think honestly, who's running the social media? What's her name again?
Jessica Corbett. Does that sound right?
Yes, that is right. Jessica Corbett. She's doing great. I honestly, the Canucks social media is great. And I'm really enjoying it. And I think it's important. It brings a lot of new people into the sport and gets people to be fans of your team, which is always good.
Yes.
So let's stick with some Canucks news. The biggest news of the week, and that is Cammi Granato, who is a Hockey Hall of Famer, who has multiple medals, including a gold, I think.
Yep.
Again, 19... I don't want to think about that because that means that Canada lost. Just a smart hockey mind. She was a scout for the Seattle Kraken for a few years. and the Canucks basically stole her. They said, "Hey, we'll give you a nice promotion." Basically, I don't know if it's going to be sort of running the scouting department, as that sort of role as an AGM, but again, the Canucks have followed this sort of procedure of let's just get a bunch of smart people in there to make our decisions for us, and this is no different. And it seems like a pretty slam dunk type of move.
Yeah, it was a smart move given that she lives here with Ray Ferraro, her husband, and she basically has been to a lot of Canucks games, of course, to scout not just the Canucks but the Canucks opponents for Seattle. So if everyone follows that through, but she knows a lot about our team, obviously, in seeing them play so much. So this is really cool. I think they're not just hiring just because of what gender she is, but look now, Rachel Doré, Emily Castonguay, now Cammi Granato. I think it was about time, and I think it's kind of cool to think that the Canucks are leaders. They won't be leaders; they are leaders in this. No other team has this many women in high power positions in the front office, and more importantly, yes, as you said, she can do her job. I think Emily Castonguay, her expertise is like cap, the salary cap, the CBA contracts, where as a former agent, whereas Granato will be, as you said, a lot of scouting, player development, amateur pro. So I think that's a good mix. You throw in Ryan Johnson with the Abbotsford connection and Derek Clancy, who also scouting and player development. There's your 4 AGMs now. So I think that's it for AGMs. You can't have any more, can you?
Yeah, I think 4 was their sort of target.
Okay.
Which works for me. Again, it's better than the 1 and then eventually 2 that they had under the previous regime, who we never heard from. Yeah, I mean, you look at just her actual playing days. Participated in 2 Olympics, 1 gold, 1 silver. In the Women's World Championships, a gold in 2005. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 silvers. I mean, they're against Canada, almost all of them, I imagine. So that's kind of tough, I guess. But yeah, and then joined into the Seattle ranks.
Yeah. Hockey Hall of Fame too, right?
Yep, Hockey Hall of Fame. I think I mentioned that kind of off the bat. She was the first woman there was 3 women inducted into the Hall of Fame at the same time. They were the first 3 inducted into the Hall of Fame. She's in the United States Hall of Fame. She is. It's a slam dunk.
Hey, do you see we have a nomination for the next world champion, the next championship holder from Justin?
No, I didn't.
Well, it's your boy, one of your boys.
Oh, I see this now. Justin with the $2 saying Alex Chason is going to be your next Canucks champion of the world. I don't know why people think I like Chason so much or dislike Chason so much. I just don't think he's that good sometimes.
So, what will you do when Pearson is awarded the championship belt on like February 28th or whatever?
Is that hold on, we got to lock that in. Someone clip that. February 28th.
Hold on, they're not even playing that day. Well, they are, but yeah, they're going to beat New Jersey.
Hey Siri, remind me on February 28th at 10 p.m. that Tanner Pearson wins the belt. All right, we're locking that in.
By fluke, I didn't even know the 28A that the Canucks were playing. I didn't know B. I'm not this smart that it was a Monday night, so we can talk about it on Canucks After Dark.
Sweet, perfect. All right, that is locked in. We will. That would be, if that happens, that's awesome. Okay. That'll be a great clip for marketing purposes.
Ready. Ready.
Now this is yelling at me. Yeah. So like I said, Cammi Granato seems to be a slam dunk. We might get some leaks from Ray Ferraro, getting some good scoops. I don't think the Canucks will really let that happen. I think that would be too obvious if Ray Ferraro comes out and is like, "Hey, the Canucks are making this trade." It's like, wow, who'd you hear that from?
Yeah, anything to get a hand up on Drager and the Sportsnet guys, right? That'd be so funny.
Exactly. That would be funny though. I saw there was a post in the Canucks subreddit, I think, and it was like new Canucks mysterious source. It was just Ray Ferraro with like a black bar over his eyes to like hide his identity. It was very good.
I like Ferraro. I think he's really good. I think he's a good analyst.
He's excellent. I loved that. I loved when he was on Halford and Bruff on 1040 all the time. It was great.
Yeah.
Very smart.
Yeah. Good. So good hire. Are you happy with it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Can't complain. I mean, they're just taking all of the top female minds off the market, basically. So when all these other teams finally realize, hey, there's another half of the population of people that know things too about hockey, all the best ones are gone already, except maybe Jen Botterill, who I think, who apparently declined one of those roles.
Oh,
if those reports are correct, I think we talked about this last week, and you had the same reaction. So
okay.
I
I only
think
have a few reactions, but that's one of them.
that's fair. In other Canucks news, Brandon Sutter likely will not play this entire season.
No surprise here, Parker, given that he's not even skating. So people were asking us, once in a while, when do we see him in the lineup? Well, we won't this year, which is unfortunate. He's suffering from long effects of long haul COVID, whether that's heart, whether that's respiratory, we don't know. But it's sad. Forget about the contract. Forget about him as a player. Forget about, would Lamico replacing him, supplanting him as a human being, as a person. You feel for anyone who, and you got to think, you wonder if he's going to be able to come back at all. I don't know if you had any thoughts about that.
Yeah, he's 32.
Yeah.
And he's not like a star, right? He's a player who's basically a 4C. If he fully recovers, I could definitely see him being a really solid piece for, like, if a contender wants a guy on a basically vet min contract, right? Like 800K, 900K, something around there. He'd be a great piece to bring in. When we're talking about a team like Vancouver, I imagine that's it. I don't see them bringing him back next year. At least he gets the money from this year. That's good. He'll make $1 million. Well, I think that's just insurance at that point. That would pay that out. So that's good at the very least. It's just unfortunate. And for a guy who got so much vitriol from this market, and myself included, because he was heavily overpaid, not his fault. Good on you. Get the bag. But Jim Benning gave him way too much money, and paid too much in the trade for him. He was, when that contract was signed, both of us had the same reaction. That's a great deal, right? 1 year, just over $1 million, a contract that you can almost 100% bury in the minors if Brandon Sutter doesn't live up to that to his his sort of former self. A contract that basically all of the risk was just on real money, right, on Aquilini. And unfortunately, it just doesn't work out.
Yeah. Yes. And the practical side. So yes, I think we've done a good job of acknowledging the human and the emotional side. The practical side is we kind of don't need him in the lineup. We are so impressed with John Pond. We are so impressed with how he's really the driver of that line with Mott and Highmore. And he's doing everything good, winning faceoffs, killing penalties, skating hard, back checking, scoring timely goals, game-winning goals. So really, is there really a spot for Brandon Sutter on this team when you have Miller, Pettersson, Horvat, and Dickinson, those four rotating among the top three center spots?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I mean, it really, sort of on the same vein, Juho Lammikko might have a real spot on this team. Into the as someone who was basically a trade for a defenseman who seems like he'll never pan out in Olli Juolevi, and basically, hey, let's get something for him. It's a 26-year-old fourth line center who probably has another 4-ish years being, a solid fourth liner in the NHL. And I think the Canucks are really happy to have him.
Yes. We're seeing some great suggestions in our chat of what to do with Sutter, saying that he's better than some of our current players. But I think we should acknowledge Lucas, another donation. Thank you, Lucas. Just basically saying if both of our, subscriber base put together is greater than Arizona's 5,000 seat stadium, then we should petition to have an NHL expansion team out of our YouTube channel.
Do you have the $750 million to put up?
I have like $7.50.
Yeah, I can throw in a few hundred.
Okay.
I can get a loan from the bank, maybe sell my car.
Then we have 307.50. Okay.
And then we still only have about $750 million left. That'll get us there.
But with your brains and my media prowess, I think we would do better than their current Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, look, I just want to have a house one day, not an NHL team. All right, so let's think a little smaller, maybe.
Baby steps. You got it.
On that track. Do we want to go into a little bit of a wrinkle that we've run into here?
Sure.
Last week we discussed sort of the technicalities of Halak's contract, and those technicalities were apparently incorrect. Now, Thomas Drance was basically the one that reported when Halak was signed that the condition for the contract's bonus, the $1.25 million bonus, was 10 appearances. And that's because he was shown language from a source that said that. Elliot Friedman comes out a few days ago saying, no, it's not 10 appearances. It's actually 10 starts. And because of that, Halak had one appearance in relief for Thatcher Demko. So he is only at 9 starts, which obviously the Canucks knew about. They just didn't sort of play their hand on that. So in theory, Thatcher Demko starts every game, and on back-to-backs, you pull him a minute in and put Halak in. Easy peasy. Halak is probably very happy that he doesn't get his $1.25 million, and everybody wins.
Yes, I'm sure, and that will look so good to other free agents that want to come to Vancouver in the future.
Yes, they know that this is a team that cares about the cap and that they will do anything to win.
Oh, it's so funny, man. I'm glad you brought this up because there's so many people dunking or trying to divide 1.25 million by 16 minutes. And you saw so many funny tweets on Wednesday night, for it to be for naught, right? As you said, we got to wait for one more game, which, there are a couple, we're joking about the 27th, 28th. I think that's their next back-to-back, right? Rangers on the 27th, New Jersey on the 28th. So Halak's small travel, but Halak's bound to get one of those 2 games, wouldn't you think?
I would imagine, unless they really care about this money. And then you maybe go the Spencer Martin route. The thing is, if that $1.25 million is something they really care about, with the Canucks farm team being in Abbotsford, that's really not that crazy, right? Because we talk about the Canucks roster, right? Typically a team has 2 goalies on their roster, and they have 3 extra skaters, right? Some teams will do 1 extra forward and 2 extra D. Some will do 2 extra forward, 1 extra D. Well, if you really want to do that, well, the day of the game that you want the backup or you want Spencer Martin to come up and play, then you just waive a defenseman who isn't waiver eligible. So you send someone, you paper someone down basically to the minors. That can be someone from the taxi squad. You move them to taxi squad. You can do some weird stuff. And then you can just call Spencer Martin up for that one game. And then you still have 1 extra forward, 1 extra D-man in the press box anyways. And it really doesn't have that much of an impact on the team. Now, visually, is that something that other free agents see? And does that have a negative impact on the team? Because there's arguments in both ways, right? Some people say, well, Jim Rutherford isn't the one, and Patrick Allvin aren't the ones that signed that contract for Halak, and they're just looking ahead to the future. But other people might see that and be like, well, now I don't want to go there, because if I'm 35 plus and I have bonuses, and are they going to do whatever they can to not get me those bonuses? You see it in football all the time where it's sort of the opposite, right? You'll have a player maybe having like a breakout year as a rookie, or even anyone. They'll have like a performance bonus at this many catches, and you'll see the quarterback go and be like, hey, I'm hitting you three in a row. We're getting you that bonus. And then we'll try to win the game. Right. Because it's a real big chunk of money, $1 million, right? Like we talk about this $1 million on the cap and how, that $1 million could fetch us another, 4th, maybe a 3rd line player if we're lucky. But for these players, it's $1 million. That's a lot of money. It's $1 million US. That's like $6 million for us.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's crazy money. And yeah, sure. Halak's made. How much money has Halak made? Halak career earnings. He has made $44 million in his career. I'd like another million even if I made 44.
And Parker, we got to really talk about the respect to Halak that's due, though, because listen to his game starting, his number of games he started. Listen to what it will sound like in the last 8 seasons: 59, 36, 26, 49, 37, then 29 in a shortened season, 17 in a shortened season, and then you're going to keep him at 9 to save $1 million.
Yeah, and yeah, he's sure. You can look at me like, oh, his save percentage is 903. It's almost the worst of his career. That's like because of one game. He was at 917, 918 before that, right?
It's a bad drop.
But then you can also think of it and you can say, well, ignore the bonus thing. Do you think Spencer Martin is better? Right. And then you could say, hey, it's not even about the bonus. It's not about the $1 million. It's about giving us the best chance to win night in, night out. And we think that Spencer Martin gives us that opportunity better than Yaroslav Halak, which I don't have much of a problem with that argument, to be honest.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of talk out there, and I kind of made the point in one of my streams, though. I'm sure Halak has had maybe not his first 3 games ever, or close to it, but I'm sure Halak's had a really good streak of 3 games as well. So yes, we should be happy that Spencer Martin is good. We should be happy that he's going to push for the backup spot behind Demko next season. But honestly, I look at Bruce Boudreau, Parker, and he seems like a guy who respects veterans, respects the game. And I'm not suggesting you are saying to disrespect Halak, but I just think intentionally not playing him to save 1.25. Yes, that is 1.25, but I just have a feeling that the respect and the ramifications down the road may be more than that. I don't know how you quantify it. It just doesn't feel right to me, but that's just me.
And I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Again, if I'm a Canuck, if I'm part of the Canucks management, though, I want to see Spencer Martin a little more. You know, we're talking about a guy who's 26 years old, who has played 6 NHL games and has looked really good in the 3 that he's played this year. Remember, he hadn't played an NHL game in like 4 years, right? In the AHL, he's played 11 games. He's got a 911 save percentage, 2.53. That's good AHL numbers. That's fine.
Yeah.
And in his little stint in the NHL, he's been absolutely outstanding. So we're talking about a 26-year-old goalie who's a UFA next year, who the Canucks might want to bring back as, potentially a backup, right? Instead of going out on the free agent market or trying a guy like Mikey DiPietro, who, is a little iffy from what we've seen. Do you want to go out and spend, $2 million for a backup goalie next year who, someone similar to Halak, right? Like someone in their 30s who would be a good piece for a year, and then you just sort of rinse and repeat. Or do you maybe have a guy in Spencer Martin who you're comfortable playing 25 games a year as your backup and probably isn't making much money, right? He's probably making $900K next year. That could be a real found piece of just a nice little found piece of treasure there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't even know Spencer Martin's a free agent at the end of this season.
Yeah. So the Canucks got him from the Tampa Bay Lightning in a trade in exchange for future considerations. And so he was and then they just signed him to a 1 year Tampa Bay signed him. He was in his last year of RFA status. They signed him to 1 year, $800K. His minor salary is only $105,000 a year. Right. So we're talking about a guy who's making basically no money in the I mean, I say no money. He's making 105 US. That's a lot of money. But in terms of professional hockey player, not a lot, right? Yeah. The Canucks can come out and they can say, hey, we'll pay you 800 again, but we're going to maybe your minor salary is going to be 500. Right. And that's a big raise for a guy when it really has zero impact on your cap hit. It just impacts maybe your bottom line. That could be a really smart move, but it's a move you probably don't want to go into next season with Spencer Martin as your backup if he's only played 6 NHL games. You probably want to see a little more.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying. And the other way I was thinking is if he plays well in Abbotsford, you can bring him on to battle for backup, but you still have DiPietro, and maybe you bring in one other veteran too to battle for that spot. Thank you, Crazy Tomato, for the $2 donation, by the way, and good night to you as well. Okay. So here's a thought then, Parker. How would you handicap the chances of Halak actually not playing? Because I put it at 0%. I would
say 5. Okay. I think a lot of this is hypothetical. I genuinely think Halak is going to play one of those games on February 27th or 28th, probably the one in New Jersey on the 28th. And this entire thing doesn't matter. It came out today. I think it was today that he basically said like he doesn't want to be traded. He's got the no move. Rick Dollywall's like, I've been saying this from the start, which was kind of funny. So I think this is probably a non-issue, but I do want to see Spencer Martin play some more games.
Okay, that's fair. So maybe we can have both. Maybe we can, especially if the Canucks are not fighting for a playoff spot with the last 5 games of the year. Maybe you bring Martin up for a couple and Halak has already hit his 10. Then everyone's happy.
That sounds fair to me.
There, solve the world's problems
next year, but
that's
whatever.
True. Yeah.
All right, let's go around the NHL. One big piece of news today. Came out.
Oh no!
And that is where you're going. Calgary Flames just working so hard to become the 2020 Vancouver Canucks. They already had Jacob Markstrom.
Yes.
They already had Chris Tanev.
Amen.
Our guys, as they said. And then they go out and they say, hey, let's go get the guy who the Canucks acquired for a lot as a rental. And let's get him for some long-term because he's got some years left on that contract. And they go out and they trade for Tyler Toffoli. What were your instant thoughts, instant reactions to Tyler Toffoli coming back to the Pacific Division where he has been almost his entire career?
So I had three reactions. My first reaction, honestly, was to compare him to Connor Garland. And you may have seen my tweet where I like Garland. I like the fact that he's 4 years younger. They're basically at equal points per game over their career. And Garland has 4.9 left on 4 more years, and Toffoli is 4.2 on 2 years. But to me, they're both right wingers. You might not call them top line right wingers. So that made that comparison right away. So that was my first thought is, would I want Toffoli over Garland? And my answer was no pretty quickly, but at least I had that fleeting thought. My second thought was, yes, Calgary is stacking up their team with past Canucks, whatever. And then my third thought was, and I think the most important practical part that we should talk about, and I know we will, was given what Calgary gave up to get him, how do we equate that to a JT Miller trade? I know we'll get there in a couple of minutes, but those are my three thoughts, really, right off the bat.
Yeah. So on that first part, would you rather have Garland or Toffoli? I think if you're making a team, which is what the Canucks are doing, you take Connor Garland just because of age, right? He's 4 years younger.
Yes.
And for where the Canucks are trying to be, Connor Garland is going to be more effective in that time period. If you're trying to win now, Tyler Toffoli is a pretty good pick, right? He was one of the best scorers in the NHL last year, had a big breakout basically at the age of 28, scoring 28 goals in 52 games. And then this year he's fallen off a little bit, 9 goals, 17 assists and 26 points, 37 games, still respectable numbers, right? We're talking about a guy on like a 55, 60 point pace. That's great. But you look at what the Flames paid and they said, hey, we want to get this done now. Because we didn't want any other teams to go out and get him, which I think is fair. So they go out and they drop a first round pick, a 2024 fifth round pick, Emil Heineman, who I knew nothing about until I Googled him this second, who is a 20-year-old second round pick who's playing in the SHL, maybe a bottom end player one day, and Tyler Pitlick. So the main piece is really the first round pick, right? Basically a first and some extra stuff thrown in for Tyler Toffoli.
That first is protected too, I think, right? Top 10 protected.
Top 10 protected for this year. If the pick is in the top 10, then Montreal will receive a 2023 first and a fourth.
But there's no way Calgary's pick is going to be in the top 10.
No, unless they really fall off here.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Which I think they're one of the teams that we're pretty comfortable saying are going to be in the playoffs this season.
So you're going to have to help me with on this prospect because I don't know anything about him, but there's 4 assets there, right? 2 draft picks, the prospect, and a fringe, or I shouldn't say that about Tyler Pitlick. I don't know much about him, but the point is it's 4 assets. And
fringe is fair. He's played 25 games this year. He has 2 assists, right? Okay. He's basically a 4C/5C who can come into the lineup if you need him. Just a depth guy. Okay. So the base, I think that's probably for salary purposes, part of that trade. The main part of it is a first and a couple of sweeteners for Tyler Toffoli. Now, the big thing, obviously, what we care about, one, Tyler Toffoli back in the division is interesting, right? Canucks play the Flames 3 more times this year. They've only played them once. But the big thing is, the Canucks got some assets that are rumored to be on the trade block over the next month.
Oh, really?
One of those being JT Miller, who we've discussed at length, and obviously we've joked about Lafreniere, and it seems to be. What the Canucks are looking for JT Miller is a first and a prospect and maybe a roster player even, right?
Yes.
Which is kind of what this trade was, except the prospect and roster player were pretty low end, right?
Yep.
I think what the Canucks were looking for was a first and then maybe a higher end prospect and maybe like a third line roster player who's young or something along those lines. Well, let's do a comparison on JT Miller to Tyler Toffoli. Age-wise, a wash. Contract-wise, JT Miller makes $300K more, but only 2 seasons. JT Miller is a center. JT Miller is a first-line center, a point-per-game first-line center over his last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Basically the lifeblood of the Vancouver Canucks.
Mhm.
Tyler Toffoli scored a lot of goals last year, but it was a one-off, right? He's never done that before. He's never scored in like a 45, 50 goal pace before. And he seems to have fallen down from that again.
Mhm.
Would you rather have Tyler Toffoli, a really good second line right winger, maybe a first line right winger, or would you rather have JT Miller, who is a bona fide 1C? And I know this is a leading question because I'm really adding a lot to it. Would you rather have Toffoli or Miller if you are a team that is trying to win the Stanley Cup this year?
If I had to pick between those two options only, I would choose JT Miller.
Absolutely. Because he brings so much more to the table. And Toffoli is a great player. Toffoli is a fun player. He was excellent to watch in his 10 games or whatever it was for the Canucks. But JT Miller is, I saw someone tweet today, and they said like, wow, over the course of their career, Miller and Toffoli basically have the same points per game. Yeah, because Miller was useless in his first 3 seasons, right? Like, but you look at the last 3 seasons, the 3 seasons that JT Miller's played for the Vancouver Canucks, 72 points in 69 games, over a point per game, 46 points in 53 games last year on a team that didn't play well.
Oh.
Right. So just under a point per game there. And then this year he's over a point per game, 48 points, 17 of which are goals in 47 games. Again, on a team that loses more than they win.
Yes.
He is cap controlled through next year, 5.25 million, very cheap for a first line center. And on a contending team, he's probably going to be a second line center or a first line winger who is going to play on power play 1. And you get 2 kicks the can. JT Miller's value should be sky high right now. And one of those reasons is the reason that the Flames used and why they paid for Tyler Toffoli. And that was because they didn't want any other team to have him.
Yeah.
Right. You're going into the playoffs and you've got divisional rivals and you're saying, hey, we're going to put up, maybe a first round pick and a prospect for JT Miller. Well, then maybe one of your rivals, another team that wants to win the Stanley Cup this year, let's say you're Tampa Bay and you're Florida, sort of going back and forth, right? And I know the cap wouldn't work for Tampa Bay. But let's say teams like that. Well, I might pay a little, I might throw a second round pick in there just to make sure they don't have them, right? Because that's going to really mess with our chances to win the cup. We're going to have to go get someone else, but they're still going to have Miller. And, if a team is really willing to leverage the farm and not for 1 year, but for 2, JT Miller is so valuable, and I think his value should be sky high.
Yes, it should be sky high. It is sky high, and I guess you and I talked just before we came on the air here. We talked about some stuff still continuing to leak out of the Rangers area and some potential packages for him from the Rangers, which don't seem strong enough, do they, Parker?
No. So
go ahead, lay it on us.
Larry Brooks is a New York Rangers reporter. I think he's from the New York Post, which is one of those publications. It's a little dramatic, and he seems to be wrong about a lot of things, is what I'll say. So he puts out a thread of tweets today. He says, number 1, JT Miller's trade value increases only if an acquiring team wants to meet Vancouver's price. I think they should, because he's a very good player. There's no law that says the Rangers are now going to throw Schneider or Othman or Cooley into the deal because Calgary may have overpaid for Toffoli. Now, time out here. Yep. If Larry Brooks thinks that Cooley is going to be a breaking point for this trade, now you might wonder who that is. I am Googling it right now because I don't know who that is.
Yeah. I thought that was a type of an advanced stat or something.
Cooley. A 60th overall pick in the 2020 draft, right? Okay, we're not talking about, we're not talking about a star here. We're talking about like a mid-tier prospect, right? Like a Tyler Madden at best, right? Yeah. And that is before he sort of broke out a little bit, right? His second tweet, if the Canucks get greedy and do not move him, Miller's trade value will diminish over the offseason when an acquiring team would get him for 1 player for 1 rather than 2. Now, here's the problem. Is that his trade proposal is not taking in the second year into account, because his trade proposal says, if I think Drury is prioritizes Miller, then Niels Lundqvist, and Philip Hedl comprise a pretty good return. So Larry Brooks is basically saying, look, Miller isn't that valuable just because Calgary overpaid. And oh, they got to trade him now. Otherwise they're only getting 1 year instead of 2. And then he comes in and says, hey, for those 2 years of a number 1 center, they should trade a 3C who is 22 years old and a decent defenseman prospect.
Right.
It's ridiculous. It's so incorrect. And I really hope this trade happens for way more than that, just because I want the receipts. And I'm pulling it up. And because I'm taking a victory lap when it is a first and better players than those two.
Oh, take more than a lap, man. Run at least 2 laps. So here's the thing. We've always talked about how fan bases tend to overrate, overprice, overvalue their own players. But this isn't Vancouver. This isn't us setting this, JT. We've heard this from other sources from throughout the league that it's going to be 3 or 4 assets. And as you said, Parker, one of them is going to be a first rounder. So Lundqvist, I only know a little bit. It's not the goalie. It's the guy who's a decent puck moving, quick defenseman, a good puck mover. But we kind of have a guy like that in Quinn Hughes. And we also have a guy in Jack Rathbone who we're trying to find minutes for. I've seen it in the chat. Tiger mentioned it. Braden Schneider is the one we want. The big, tough, throwback, not throwback, but a big, good skating, but massive right shot defenseman. That's where I think the conversation needs to start, not with these other 2 guys that you mentioned.
Right. And the Canucks don't have to trade him, right? Yeah. They can say, hey, if you want him, this is the price. And if you don't, talk to us in the offseason. Yeah, and maybe the price will go down. Maybe it won't, right? Yeah. In the offseason, guess what? Teams can go 10% over the cap during the offseason. They have more flexibility instead of just 16 teams, maybe, or even 10 teams thinking of them for that one playoff run. There's a lot more teams in the offseason that think they might have a chance at a run and might make a move like that. Think of the Canucks when they acquired JT Miller a couple of years ago, because they thought, hey, maybe we're in a spot that we can go for a bit of a run here, right? You find teams like that, and suddenly your pool is not 10, where it's maybe the top 3 from each division. Maybe your pool is now 15 teams that might be interested in JT Miller, and that price goes maybe up, maybe down, maybe it stays the same. But are you taking that risk if you're a team like the Rangers who thinks that they might have a shot at winning the whole thing this year or next year? And if they don't, then they wouldn't be thinking about this offer in the first place.
Yeah, you make a great point, Parker, about we don't know. I guess intuitive logic would suggest that maybe the price goes down a little bit because now you've lost that one of the 2 years, blah, blah, blah. But we know that prices are going to ramp up at trade deadline time. Then they're going to simmer down again. Then they're going to ramp up around the draft time when you're trading, just like when we got him at the 2019 draft. So who knows? Who knows what his trade value is going to be? But you make a really good point. Is because we have him for 1 more year after this. Technically, the Canucks don't have to do anything. And I know this. I know when I first heard talk about trading JT Miller, I was like, no, he's our best player. We can't do that. Then I started to hear all these offers of 4 assets. I said, oh yeah, we should do that right now. And then now I'm kind of 50-50 because I get why you should trade him now, but I also get that he's kind of the heart and soul of this team right now.
Yep, I fully agree. I'm in the exact same boat. I don't want him to get traded, but I know he probably should. Just because, again, if this team's competitive 2 years out, are you going to be less competitive if he's making $8 million or whatever that number is, and as he is on the wrong side of 30, as they say?
That's a really good point, actually. Yeah, you don't know what that next contract is going to be and how good he's going to be. That's a really good point. Before I lose it, though, we can keep talking about this, but Lucas, another donation. Thank you, Lucas, reminding us or confirming that indeed we're going to see the flying skates sometime next week. And we can talk about that when we do our wrap up, but thank you, Lucas, for the donation, and thank you for the scoop. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was one of our things, the return of the skate that we were going to bring up. It looks like February 24th seems to be the rumored date.
Against Tyler Toffoli and the Flames.
Yeah, it is Tyler Toffoli and the Flames. I think the idea is sort of a retro night. I wonder if the Flames maybe wear those white jerseys that are really nice. I really like those ones. I think the Canucks should start. I think they should go more wild. I think they should start bringing the flying V back. I think you just run through them all. The NBA does this so well, right? You see teams wear like 8 different uniforms for one night throughout the year. I mean, on the NHL, you can wear them during warm up, but not during the game because that's weak. You can only have 3 jerseys max, maybe 4 if you're lucky. And I'd like to see just more fun from the NHL. I mean, we look at another thing that happened this week. There was a huge trade in the NBA where one of literally the best basketball players in the world, James Harden, gets traded. That just doesn't happen in hockey. This happens every single year around the trade deadline in the NBA, where like it's like, oh, literally, oh, one of the top 3 players in the world gets traded. Could you imagine if Sidney Crosby gets traded and then like the next day, Nathan McKinnon gets traded or something crazy like that? Like that would be it would be so exciting and so interesting. But the NHL, people are scared to make mistakes, so it just doesn't happen.
And really quickly on the James Harden trade, it was so funny because LeBron and Kevin Durant had to do their draft of their all-star teams. And James Harden was one of the 2 last guys, and he just got traded from Durant's team. So, of course, Durant did not take him. So Harden was the last guy picked. It was pretty funny, actually.
That's great. We have 5 minutes left.
Wow. What did the time
only
go?
things that I had left on our list were the games coming up this week. We'll quickly touch on them. Thursday, Canucks at Sharks, 7:30 p.m. Did you hear Shorty last Friday on Halford and Bruff what he was saying about this game?
No, tell me.
So this game is in San Jose, but they're not doing the broadcasting from the US, right? They're staying in Canada. But I think there's something going on at Rogers Arena that night. So him and John Garrett are getting flown to Toronto to call this game. Now, keep in mind, this game is at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. So they will be calling from the Sky Dome or Rogers Center at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time, this game on a monitor.
So I get that they're in a studio, not they're not like it's the midfield, but in the cavernous arena all by themselves or stadium at 10:30 at night, getting out of there at between 1 and 2 a.m. That's asinine. That's crazy.
Yeah. Why aren't they just at Sportsnet Studios, like on Ash Street? Like,
do it at your house. You got a nice setup there.
I got a microphone. I don't have 2, but you can run over to Long and McQuaid. They sell these.
Oh man, that's crazy.
And then the Canucks come home Saturday, Ducks at Canucks.
Yeah.
And then, so this is, these are 2 divisional games, 2 games that matter. And then Monday night, Kraken at Vancouver. I think this time is right that I put in here. I think you're at this game, aren't you?
I am. Yeah. So I just got to tell my buddy that I'm going with that I cannot drive him home because I'm going to my office to do Canucks After Dark, it'll be fine.
Perfect. Yeah. So the plan Saturday, we'll go from my post game that I do over to Canucks After Dark. Last time we had a great turnout because I just sort of transferred everyone over.
Awesome.
And we had a lot of people there. So after that game, it's family day too. So it's a nice little holiday. So you can watch the Canucks game, you can join my post game, and then we'll all come here and talk about the week that was for the Vancouver Canucks.
Perfect. That sounds like a perfect day.
Perfect. All right. We got 3 minutes. I don't think we have any, I don't think we should ask for any viewer questions. I think we should just sort of scroll through the ones that have happened. Did you see any that you might have picked up along the way?
Well, we don't have to highlight it, but when we were talking about Sutter versus Dickinson, healthy Sutter, who would you take? Oh, there you go.
If you'd asked me before this season, I would have said Dickinson.
Yeah.
If you asked me now, I would say Juho Lammikko. I think I would lean towards Sutter, I think, right now.
Yeah. Dickinson has been disappointing for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other ones on this list here?
Oh, someone said, would Kravtsov, Schneider, and a second from the Rangers do it for you, for Miller?
I don't know a lot. I know Kravtsov has a lot of some flaws that some people like, just in the fact that apparently he doesn't love North America that much, which is a little scary. Again, I think it's easy to go down the Russia scary path, and I think that has been something that the NHL has done a lot. But if it's true, then I mean, there's no real arguing it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know a lot about Schneider either, to be honest.
Yeah.
And a second, I mean, a first round pick versus a second round pick, I mean, they're both lottery tickets. The first is more likely to hit. But if this scouting department is confident in themselves that they can turn a second round pick into something good, then I say, hey, get as many tickets as you can.
Yep. The other one that's out there was started talking about on the weekend was Zaka out of New Jersey, right? Yeah, who's a decent played center, been playing on the wing because they got Heischer and Jack Hughes when he's healthy. Can you convert back to a center? Do we want him? That's interesting too. That one that's out there. A lot of things out there around this time of year.
Yeah, it's it'll be wild. It'll be fun when it happens, and you'll have Canucks After Dark there, and both of us will probably make videos that day, of course, when that happens. Lucas has a what if your ideal Winter Classic matchup and stadium.
Oh, wow!
This seems too easy for me. It's Vancouver, Seattle at Lumen, right? Like in Seattle.
Yeah.
I'd say BC Place, but I'd much rather go to a game at CenturyLink / Lumen Field for that matchup. I think that's a slam dunk.
Okay, you did the Vancouver one, which is fair. I'll go real historic, and I'll go Rangers, whatever. Rangers Boston at Yankee
Fenway?
Stadium. Yeah, Fenway. Yeah, any of those two.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think my ideal one has the Canucks in it because I want to
course.
go. Another option would be, I don't know, you could go Commonwealth. That's always interesting.
Yeah.
Does that exist anymore? That was what 2003 they did that. It was a long time ago.
You know, I went to the Heritage Classic, the Canucks against Ottawa.
Yeah, that was fun when Luongo didn't play.
Yeah, got traded 3 days later.
Yeah, that was a mess. Yeah.
Sorry to end. Say something good. End this on a positive note.
Vancouver and Seattle at Empire. Let's do it here with a few thousand people in the stands. Let's do it. Let's do the Winter Classic at the ASU Arena. Canucks and Coyotes. It's indoors, but we'll call it the Winter Classic. It'll be 16 degrees outside in January. Then we can go golfing after, and that's the perfect perfect Winter Classic.
And to wind up, because I know you're a football fan, what do you think of the Super Bowl?
It was a good game. It was a good game. It didn't go the way I wanted. I didn't care too much.
Yeah.
Once it came out that Aaron Donald might retire if the Rams won, I kind of flipped sides. I was like, yes, retire Aaron Donald. Yes. Protect Russell Wilson. But no, it was a good game. It was fun. Halftime show was great.
Yeah, it was. And those are from my and calls notwithstanding, you just kind of knew that the Rams were going to go down and score in that second to last drive for sure.
Yeah, I didn't have too much trouble with the officiating. Look, the one hold was a little iffy. The other one made sense. They didn't call a lot all game, but they did miss that very obvious face mask on Higgins when he got that touchdown in the first. It's not like it was rigged or anything. I think that's silly. Officiating's never good in any sport. So
I know a lot of people didn't want the Rams to win because they're Seahawks fans. I get all that, but I thought it was fine.
Yeah, it was a good game. That's all I care about. I watched it. I made potato skins. It was great.
Oh, awesome.
All right. That is it then. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We'll be back next Monday after the Canucks and Kraken game. Once again, a happy Valentine's Day. Clay, any parting words for the night?
No, let's a bit of a break here, obviously, until our next game against San Jose on Thursday. So, no, I'm just excited. The Canucks should be feeling good, and I'm predicting 3-0. Those are three. They're not three easy teams.
They're three winnable teams.
Yeah, I'm going optimistic. I'm going 3-0.
I'm gonna go back to 2-0-1.
There you go.
It's an easy one. I say they lose to the Ducks in a shootout. And Trevor Zegras does something stupid in the shootout.
No,
that's going to be my guess.
Okay.
All right. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with us. We will see you all next. Oh, but I always say, if you missed any part of it, rewind to the beginning or go find the podcast. I know, like most of you show up late. Our viewership peaked at 10:52. All right, that was 10 minutes ago. So most of you missed the start of the show. It'll be up on your favorite podcast platform in like 30 minutes or tomorrow morning when you're driving to work, whatever you're doing. Just search Canucks After Dark. It's easy. Or just rewind back to the beginning. Maybe save it, favorite it, do something. I don't know. It's fun. We will see you guys next week.